then will it be something they want? So maybe it has to mean we have to extend the reach a little bit and pick up areas. And of course, the time probably needs to be within that 15 or 20-minute window to make it worthwhile. So we got to find out more information before we spend $100,000 on a shuttle that may have 6 people on it per trip and maybe only 2 in the wintertime. You know, then what's the point if we're not really getting use?
When's the Mountain Metro window closed?
Well, we have different windows. So basically, we're looking at, well, right now they would have to know if we want to propose a annual shuttle for 36. It would it has to be in their hands at least by December. In January, they do the community outreach for that by law. And then it would go in effect, if approved, it would go in effect, I believe, April 1st or April 30th, somewhere in April. And then another window opens up that we have to have, I think February we start working on it, and we have to have it in by May, and then by June they do public outreach, and then we would have it in effect in the fall, which probably would make more sense for us. Since we are looking at going year round, we probably could just extend 36 from that point on. So my goal would be to have this survey done before that second round in May, before that, so that this board can make a decision too, based on the survey. Is it something we want to bring to council and see if we can take the funding for it, or if it's not worth it because nobody wants a year-round shuttle for 36 that runs through Beckers through Serpentine. I hope that makes sense.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Chair,
yes.
Can I
Go ahead.
Sorry to jump in. You've got 3 hands up here. I saw Carl's, then mine, and Rolf's. So do you mind if we hear from others on the board?
Absolutely. That's where I was going. Who's first?
I think it was Carl.
Carl.
All right, so I tried to take notes of multiple comments on this, but just maybe for starters, I'm a big supporter of expanding the shuttle, some sort of shuttle use, right? I think, we have a problem of too many cars in downtown Manitou, and we need to give people options, right? And if we don't give people options to get out of the car, we're just going to get more cars in downtown Manitou Springs, and we're going to have the same problem. We're just kicking the can down the road. So I'm gonna throw a couple questions out there for you. So one, I was just curious where the trolley discussion went. I know we talked about that a couple of months back, how that plays into this. The survey concerns me a tiny bit. When I've ridden the shuttle, talking to the bus driver, it seems that the folks riding the shuttle are mostly visitors, predominantly visitors and not locals. And so even you're mentioning paratransit, I don't think most people know what paratransit is, what it means, what the implications of that are. And, and probably the same thing about the shuttle, right? Hey, it's very clean. It's not like taking the 3 into Colorado Springs, completely different experience. So, I'm a bit concerned that that survey will be a bit underrepresentative of maybe the demand that we could be built over time, right? I mean, this is one of those things we're going to have to build it first, and then people will come, but people aren't going to be demanding it from day one. And final comment, I would bet that we get more, at least for me, I'm going to ride it more in the winter than I do in the summer because the weather sucks. And so I'm more likely to not want to ride my bike, for example, right, and take the shuttle. So.
Okay, who's next? Rolf?
Thanks. So the 36, could you tell us what does the 36 do?
36 runs to Beckers, back around, and it used to run around the Ruxton roundabout. Now it goes to Serpentine, or what it did, but now we're doing the roundabout at Serpentine. But once that's done in about 2 weeks, 3 weeks, it will run back through Serpentine. So there's a bus stop at Schmidt's lot now. So it covers the west end of town, the east end of town, at least in the Beckers area, not Crystal Hills at this point, but that could be discussions there. And it doesn't take you to the Safeway, which I think would be huge if we did this. I I think we need to provide a service to a grocery store. I think that's big for people, especially on the west side of town wanting to go grocery shopping. So that's what 36 is. It's really the resident shuttle per se, and it only runs in the summer. And they do get the summer visitors, but the attendance on it is very, very low, and it has been for years. It's not growing, and we have, and part of that, where I do agree with what Carl's saying. When we do a shuttle that is part of the year and it stops, people can't rely on it, and they don't worry about it, and they go buy their car or whatever they want to ride or whatever. A bike would be great, but most people are going to buy something motorized probably today, and they can't rely on it. So to me, the push the year round is important, to get people to rely on it and trust it and have it available throughout the year. And I do agree in the winter months. The thing is, we're also hesitant to spend 100,000 out of the fund if no one really has interest to do it, and maybe not even knowing where we need to connect to yet. So we really just want to get some more data so that we can even figure out the best route maybe, and if it's wanted at this point, just so we don't technically waste money. But it's hard because I don't disagree with what Carl said. I mean, you have to provide it, and that's the dilemma.
So the 36 just goes into summertime, and it just goes up Manitou Avenue. And that's different than the 33.
Right.
Which does
33
what?
is the incline shuttle, basically.
Okay. So, and that just goes from Hiawatha to the cog.
Yes.
Great. And then the 31 bus goes from
just 3.
What about the 31 bus?
There is no 31 bus. It's number 3.
No. Okay, that's right. The number 3 bus goes from Hiawatha east only.
It's to Colorado Springs and back to
Yeah,
Hiawatha.
but does it also go up to Ruxton?
No.
Okay, so those are the 3 buses, and we've never advertised. I am into this. I don't understand the buses still, and I try to. So it's just education. I do ride the bus here, though. It's very confusing which one goes where. So if we could just somehow, I love the idea of going all the way to Safeway, obviously for the 36 bus, and that could be the Manitou Avenue bus, kind of like what they're doing on Tejon Street with the Zeb. You've seen that all, okay? One bus, a different name even, it's even looks different, that just goes on Manitou Avenue. So we need to distinguish the buses, and that's what they're doing on Tejon Street.
Well, Rolf, you're right on point with that. And one of the discussions with Mountain Metro was we wrap it in Manitou, like, with whatever we want to put on the side. The Manitou Express is what Dole and I came up with the trolley. And so we make that specific for Manitou. People say, hey, hit the Manitou Express. You can go to Safeway, hit downtown, and we simplify. And I agree, Rolf. I think the system is also something that needs to be cleaned up and as easy as possible so people can figure out what's going on. I just had a lady today who stopped me and says, where do I get the bus to get to the cog? And so I helped her. I pointed it out to Hiawatha over there, and people are lost. And we need some help with that, with Mountain Metro, obviously, and the chamber, and to try to get that message out there even better.
So I'm going to pass it to Corey here, but let me just say that we've been talking about the bus now for 4 years about changing it and doing something, because I've been on this committee that long. We still haven't done anything. So that's why I think we need to do that. And we need to do it before December, because we know about their rules. So fixing the 36 bus would be great, running it from at least the arch there. And I think it needs to be run year round, and we just need to advertise it more. And then making it definitely different. So I also, one other point is getting it on Manitou Avenues and getting it off of El Paso. One idea that I want to throw out there is a light at Old Man's, not at City Hall, but Old Man's. And it's not a permanent light. It's a light that will just turn on when the bus goes through it. So he can make it red just for the bus. That way they can turn around. We're not adding another light. We're just adding a stop for the bus like we do with pedestrians. So that's just an idea, Roy, to think about at Old Man's to be able to get the bus turned around better. Because right now that's the biggest problem we have is turning the bus around. And that's why the 3 bus goes down El Paso. So that would be a fix too. So that's all I have to say. So thank you.
So Rolf, let me comment on that really quick. So we have already addressed that as well with CDOT. We thought it was a pretty good idea when we brought it to CDOT. And I would have to get the data because it's been a little while back. But they denied that and said it would not, something they would not approve. Since, reminder that CDOT runs Manitou Avenue, we do not. So we have to get their approval on things. But they said that would not work there. They looked at the data. However, I would be more than happy next month to bring that information to the group to let you know the whys that they say no. The other thing though, and I'll throw an idea because we did talk to them about the light there, and even maybe we're looking at the Pawnee light because from visuals at this point and even traffic light data, it shows that there's not really may not be a need for a light there because of the Pawnee. In the summertime, there's not many cars coming down Pawnee, but it's blocking Manitou Avenue traffic. And then in the winter, when you have school, you have less traffic anyway during the week because it's wintertime. And so you have less visitors. So it's not hard to get off of Pawnee. So we could still have a crosswalk light system there, but possibly moving that away and putting a light at El Paso and Deer and Manitou Avenue, put a light there. But the other option that they're looking at that may be a good idea that I'm not ready really to bring to the group yet, but is a roundabout there. We already have a roundabout at one end. It does work. I heard a lot of positives. A few people hate roundabouts. They'll never change their mind. But it's also my understanding, Carl and Corey, correct me if I'm wrong, but based on the last book I'm reading from Carl, they talk about roundabouts being very bike friendly. And so that's a question if that's a good way to do that, to keep traffic moving in and get that bus back onto Manitou Avenue where it belongs and off El Paso, which is still something I'm demanding from CDOT. If they don't like our ideas, they need to give us an idea to get that shuttle off of El Paso. So I don't, at the end, they may have to decide that. But are there any thoughts about the roundabout or the light? And again, Rolf, I understand about because we did approach that as well, but they turned that down as a no-go. But it doesn't mean we don't push again, but we probably won't win it. But any thoughts there with the group on what I just brought up?
Could I, I'm next in line, so can I go? And I would say, Roy, like broadly speaking, yeah, roundabouts are generally good, but it's a more complicated discussion, and I'd like to have it, and I think we shouldn't have it right now, if that's okay.
We should have it now or not have it now?
We should not have it right now.
Oh, I agree. I'm not ready
an agenda item. Okay,
but I am going to present it to CDOT still to look into.
Okay, and so I wanted to say first, thank you for bringing this item of the survey to this board so that we could have a chance to talk about it. Obviously, there's some thoughts and passions, so that's great. And you just mentioned the thing about CDOT, and so this is a tiny rabbit hole, but as a general statement, I think as a board, we would appreciate better understanding how that works with CDOT. Like, yeah, you said you can bring back why they said no. What is the process to have CDOT do something, and how can this board be influential and support you in getting the things done that our community needs? I've kind of wondered that for a long time. I know CDOT, it's the lights at the top of Serpentine Road, I think, need to be changed and need to have a left turn signal. But as I understand it, the process to deal with CDOT to have that changed is very onerous. And I think as a board, as a general tool that I think we'd like to have is to know how that works. When CDOT has a big influence on the activities of this board, how is the best way that we can engage with CDOT? So maybe we could have that as something we could talk about in a future meeting. Sure. And then I want to talk about the meat of this. And I have to be honest that if you were asking for a recommendation from this board about paying for an in-depth survey of residents about the 36 bus, I probably will make the motion that we do not support that. I think, and as was sort of alluded to by the other speakers, really, number one, the importance of that bus goes far beyond just the residents that use it. But really, I think it needs to be part of a much broader conversation. And forgive me if I missed this, but like, aren't we doing a comprehensive transit study? And shouldn't this be, I mean, a specific, especially an expensive survey about one specific bus route, I don't think is a good investment. I think it's a general principle that in order for public transportation to be effective, it's got to be reliable and year round. And yeah, I agree with comments that were made by earlier speakers about that. So overall, I wouldn't support the, if you're asking for my opinion, you'd like a motion, I will make the motion. I'll wait until everyone's had a chance to speak, but the motion I would make is that we wouldn't support that, and what we would support is a greater investment in a comprehensive transit plan. Probably almost all of us would agree that it would include a really good way for residents to get to Safeway and back. That would be a game changer for the use of transit. And if we could invest in a year-round service that would do that, you probably needn't study it. But instead of studying a single bus route, I would like to see a comprehensive transit plan. Thank you.
All right, Bob.
Okay. Do you guys see or don't see me?
I can't
Bob,
hear.
you're
it.
breaking up.
I don't see you, and we can
Darn
kind
it.
of hear you.
Any better? Let me turn my video off and
Yes.
see if that helps. Does that
Yeah,
help my
it does.
audio?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Go ahead.
We can hear you
Thanks,
fine now,
guys.
Bob.
Great. So if I heard correctly, let's cut through all of this stuff and let's just talk finances. I don't remember the number. I think I heard the number 100,000 from Roy, and then I heard like 6 people riding it certain times of the year, and then literally 2 people riding it in the winter. Roy, is that kind of what I heard?
I can get you, exact numbers. I don't have them with me right now, but we have very low ridership throughout the 6 months out of the year right now. We have no winter service, so we can't really, we don't have that data. And I don't know, I think Carl made a good point. In the winter, they might actually get more ridership in the winter. I don't know that, but
Gotcha.
we can imagine it would be much greater. And then how long are we willing to pilot the program? I think you'd have to go at least 2 years, but keep in mind, it's probably going to be about an extra $100,000 a year.
So Roy, so can we just agree that, I mean, this would be a program that we subsidize as a city, because the argument of some of the things that people may say wins out over fiscal responsibility. Is that fair to say?
Yes, that the argument that it would be a benefit outweighs the cost.
Big time, like irresponsible. I mean, that's my feeling, and you don't have to answer, but here's my thing, guys. I mean, look, and this is where you live really matters. So I live in Crystal Hills. I think I've ridden the bus from Colorado Springs down to the bottom of Crystal Hills Road. But when I go downtown, I walk. So I look at the bus as, let's say you're fortunate enough, and like Rolf, I'm not picking on you, but if you live in a place where you've got off-street parking, it's sort of like what Corey was talking about, being able to build your own parking space and still benefit. The bus is a luxury, I think, for most. And again, I don't want to presume this, but having the bus is nice. You go to the Loop, have a few margaritas. I don't want to walk. Oh, here comes the bus. That type of a thing. I think I may have lost you all. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
We can hear you, Bob.
You're good.
All right. So, I mean, again, I say this with all due respect, but I mean, look, if you lived up here in Crystal Hills and you're hearing the financial numbers, I think you would think, man, that would be awesome, but those numbers don't add up. They just fiscally, there's no way to justify that and tax people, and I don't know what the breakdown is. I was trying to find it in the different wards, where we're paying for something, and I don't think it helps our community. I don't think tourists say we have great buses. Well, the incline bus, yes. But I don't know. That's my first thought. I mean, Roy and somebody else, I think, talked about groceries. my dad's very old and he lives downtown, and I get it. However, at some point you got to look at it and say, you know, that's what a silver key is. If there's somebody that cannot get to Safeway, let's be honest, they're not going to starve. There's organizations like Silver Key. There are delivery services for the more wealthy folks that maybe don't need to go to Safeway. So I just look, I hope I'm not coming across as a crazy guy here, but I feel like I want to do things that are cool, and I'm willing to spend money here in Manitou and allow you to tax me for things that I genuinely think improve the quality of life. And one more, I'm sorry, I'm going long. I love public transportation. When we travel, we go to cities, we rarely rent a car. We ride the bus. So I just want you to know that. I get what it's so great, but I just can't see that argument personally. Thank you, and I'm sorry I went long.
Carl, I think you're next.
Thanks. Bob, I want to push back a tiny bit on your comments, and I'm saying this respectfully. I think it is fiscally responsible. If 6 people are riding the bus, and I think that number can grow, what's the cost of adding 6 additional parking spaces downtown where we don't have space today, right? And we're squabbling over 1 and 2 parking spaces, and so anybody that we can get riding that bus, that's fewer parking spaces we have to maintain and all of that. And then I think there's 30% of the population in the United States can't drive, right? They're too young, they're too old, they have disabilities, and they want to be they want to contribute to society. They want to be independent, and being able to ride the bus to go somewhere, I think, is a big enabler. And I think right now in Manitou, we discriminate against people that don't drive, right? Our whole town is totally centered, car centric, and we make it extremely hard to get anywhere unless you're in a car. And so the bus is a step in the opposite direction, in my opinion. So thank you.
Carl. Luke. You're up.
Okay, so yeah, sorry, I was trying to unmute. First off, the Safeway is serviced by a bus. Everybody, Route 3 comes to Hiawatha and goes to downtown Colorado Springs. So let's get that cleared, that we already have servicing Safeway. That is within it's already happening. So there's that. I'm a huge advocate for buses and having that service. But when there's such low ridership, it's hard for me to back that up. I understand that the ridership fluctuates in the summer, in the winter, and if we have it year round, it's more reliable. I get that, but I don't know if such a huge number dedicated to at least Mountain Metro. I mean, we were talking about other modes of transportation. Like, let's see what else we can do for $100 grand. Maybe give every resident $50 an Uber. I mean, laughably, right? But what other options are there? That para service, I don't even know what that is, but I'm happy to explore that more than writing a blank check to Mountain Metro to expand a service that's already not used much, and that would duplicate a service that's already being provided by Route 3. I'm just not a fan on that. And even more so, until they get off of El Paso, I'm not a huge fan of those buses heading east. And we're fixing that, of course, but that's just my thoughts on that. And also, I'm a huge advocate to want to bring this into the greater question of bring them all together, right? So we talked about getting the electric vehicle bus. I think that's going to be huge for us to at least bring that conversation into this again before we write Mountain Metro a check to operate year round. Where's the status with that, and what does that service look like? And also reanalyzing what it is that the routes are for 33 and 36, or Route 36 and 33. So is there a way in the wintertime to alter the routes for 33 to expand where 36 leaves off? Right? Are there ways to expand those routes and adjust them seasonally so it makes more sense? If in the wintertime we need 33 to go down all the way to Becker's to pick up where 36 leaves off, maybe that's what we do. And maybe that would be a financially more, something else that we could look at in that realm. And I had one more note. Nope, I don't. So that's my thoughts on it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Luke.
Yeah.
Corey,
Am I up next? Yeah.
30 seconds?
Yeah, I want to first of all say thank you for all those comments. I think it might be useful to see the data. It's obviously not 6 people per winter, but I think we really would, in order to make rational decisions, we really need to know what the data is. But all of these comments to me come back to the same point. I don't think a survey, especially a survey of just residents, is an effective use. I don't know what the survey costs. I don't think it's an effective use of our funds. I think what we need to be doing is a comprehensive transit study, and that includes all of those things. And Luke mentioned a whole bunch of those. And I guess the other point I just want to throw out there is, we talked about how we're doing these progressive parking rates, and we're going to use the economic benefits of those to show demonstrable benefits to the residents of Manitou so that they can get more on board. And I think exactly what we're talking about is this, like, what is the best way to service the people in Crystal Park? Like, notice there's not even a bus up to Crystal Park, right? So that's got to be part of a comprehensive transit study. So with saying all that, I would like to make a motion that this board recommends that we don't invest in a survey on just one bus route, and rather that we proceed with a comprehensive transit and mobility study.
All right.
Can I make that motion?
You can make a motion, but let's hear from Roy before we end
Sure.
this discussion.
Yeah,
Then
there
you
was a
can make
lot of
your motion.
information asked, and I just do want to clarify some of that information. First of all, Route 3, it's limited to Hiawatha. So they don't go up to the roundabout. So there would have to still be a connection from the roundabout to Hiawatha for those folks who live on the west side. And there is a cost. It is free for the month, but generally there's a cost for Route 3 because it's a Colorado Springs shuttle.
33
keep
to
that-
get there from Manitou.
Keep that in mind. Let me finish, please. Keep that in mind. I like when Luke brought up the community discounts for paratransit or Uber. Some cities do that, and they do some kind of credits to residents or whatever if they want to use that service, and it's actually becoming more popular. So that would be something that we definitely should be looking at, that Luke mentioned about that kind of thing. It is actually becoming reality to allow people to pick up their own kind of transportation and then get some kind of reimbursements from the community or city. Keep in mind that when we increase the shuttle's distance, we're also increasing the time factor, and that is not a positive experience for the rider. And so it starts decreasing ridership when they have to wait too long. So even though we've been looking at how do we combine maybe routes, which again, Luke brought up, which we thought about already a few months ago and talked to Metro, there's a real chance it's going to increase the time. And that may end up being then something that people don't want to use because they have to wait too long. Not saying it would though. So it's probably worth looking into again. And then we do have the TMMP, which is the Transportation Mobility Master Plan. A lot of money spent on that. We already did a transit study, and in there are the things we're talking about that it suggests. So to do another transit study, to me, I don't know if what we're looking for beyond the TMMP, but that was the transit study they just did for the city. And we have about 8 more congestion transportation studies in the system already. We have a lot of studies, and I don't even know if this group would ever get through all of them, even if you stay on the board for 4 years. I mean, it's that many. So the reason we looked at the study for this transit, so I want it clear, and it's okay if the group's against it, that totally is okay with me, is that the 36 shuttle is underutilized today, and it's being paid for by us. $142,000 a year, I believe, is the cost. Somewhere in there. I think Colorado Springs pays a portion, but it's fairly expensive to run this for a little over half a year, and it's underutilized. And so when we see that, it's like, well, how do we increase the ridership? And going year round is one of those options that's been proven effective. However, to Bob's point, the reason we're bringing up the survey is we want to get, we want to make sure we're making good decisions with the money that the taxpayers are paying and the, you know, for parking and mobility. And we don't want to necessarily throw it at something that may not be effective. So we're talking maybe a $20,000 study or survey. Surveys are not as hard. And I know it's risky because we may get answers we don't want to see, but I think that we get professionals to put in the right questions. We try to figure out the need that we can really support spending $100,000. So that's from a city perspective, why we thought it would be a good idea to take that approach. You know, in the end, I am torn because I don't disagree with the other folks talking about, let's put it out there and get people to write it. I do believe that is important. We just want to be careful with the money we're spending, make sure we're doing it the right way and not wasting anything. So, so now that's my end of the spiel there. And Bill, if you want to, how you want to continue on with this, and either give me some kind of go ahead to do just a small study for the shuttle itself is all I'm asking for. Another discussion on another mobility plan is a whole different discussion, and probably, you know, $100,000 or more, we'd need a grant. And I think council will frown upon another transportation study. So anyway, that's where I'll pause.
Yeah, and I think we've got to keep in mind that city council, as I understand it, asked for some guidance on this whole issue and how do we approach this issue? Do we actually spend the 90K or 100K? Is that a recommendation? It sounds to me like what we're getting from staff is a recommendation to do a little survey and for 20 grand. And to me, that's a wise investment to make at this point. And we have time still to go back to the shuttle idea. So I would encourage thoughts to support staff on this and provide the information as quickly as we can. It gives city council some guidance as to how to proceed with this issue. So that's my little spiel. And Corey, you're welcome to make your motion if you wish.
One more comment before we do the motion, because I support just doing the study about this bus. We have to make a decision on it now, has to be done. Transportation study is vague, so I am for spending the money for this particular study for bus 36. And I want to put out there that I support this bus year round. I support all buses year round. This isn't about wasting money. It's about doing the right thing too. One of the most car-centric cities in this country is Colorado Springs. They're being more progressive than we are by allowing scooters and bikes and bike lanes and a new free shuttle downtown. So it's funny that Manitou is falling behind. We haven't done enough. We haven't. The reason 36 isn't working because nobody knows it. No resident knows it. I guarantee if you did a study, nobody understands the 36 bus. And I even take the 36 bus sometimes. So that's why it's failing, is not the bus itself. It's because of the way it's been presented, and it's been our fault for not presenting it enough. So I support the study for the bus.
Mr. Chair, if I may,
Yes, go ahead, Corey.
I will withdraw my motion and just leave the statement that I do not think a $20,000 survey on one bus is likely to get us useful data. And I guess another issue that I'm sort of struggling with is we're talking about dollars, but we're actually not really accountable for a budget. So it's almost like it very quickly turns into, do you or don't you like these things? But the relative value of the dollars, we're not actually really responsible for that. I mean, like what choices are we making? What would we not spend on? You know, in some way, of course, $100,000 is a lot of money, but what are our other options that we might do with that money? So I'll just leave that with that comment.
Okay, thank you, Corey. Any other comments? Okay, on the request of staff, and Roy, if you want to give us a potential motion that we could endorse, how do you want to word that?
For the request to fund a Route 36 shuttle expansion, for year-round use. Does the Mobility and Parking Board agree with that, pursuing that study to get information on its use and validity?
Specifically, a survey costing $20,000, right?
I don't know the cost yet, but surveys are generally a lot cheaper than actual studies. So it's just doing a survey at homes. And I think we can tag in on a current survey we're using right now, a surveyor for different things for the city that's been requested by council. So my goal would be to keep it as cheap as possible, get some resident information or input, which is important. And then we still come back and decide what we want to do. But we have that to help us. And I support shuttles. I support year-round shuttles. I think it's effective. The question is, are they effective today and now? The good news is we could get nothing going this winter. It's impossible. And so there's time to do a survey, talk about it, and before May, or I would say before March, be able to submit back to Mountain Metro that we want to have year-round service by next fall. And so timing is kind of perfect for it anyway. So to me, to spend a little money, because what if there's no interest? We get it to all the community and they're like, look, we're not going to use 36. So then why expand it right now unless we can, educate better later, and maybe spend some money on the benefits of a shuttle. I don't know.
Right, is there any benefit to including other alternative ways of addressing this issue as we've talked about, and an internal strictly Manitou Springs shuttle, if you will? I don't know quite what the best terminology would be, but a small vehicle, 9 to 15 passengers, sort of, we see those buses around. Would that be part of this at all? Or could it be?
Yeah, I think that the more I think about it, to add some general mobility options and trying to get a feel of the public's interest in that would be important. And
Yes.
Luke hinted on the fact, paratransit's so new. What is it? There's so many things out there right now, and what's best for Manitou. And so maybe trying to get some of that out there. And of course, I wouldn't say paratransit because everybody would say, what's that? I would have to. What we try to do is put everything at a 5th grade level now when we get it out anywhere, so that everyone, it's like the Red Cross philosophy when I taught CPR and first aid, teach at a 5th grade level. And so you want to present everything as easy as possible because people don't understand terminology. They don't understand our terminology when we say, even occupancy of parking lanes, even council at times would be like, what's that? So we need to, when we do the survey, it has to be very general and easy to understand. And then this group can look at it and say, look, what makes sense? And that's really trying to figure that out. What makes sense for next year? And I do understand the longer term thing, which brings us to a little different point, which I'll just tag in here. Complete streets is something council wants to bring back to be presented. And I know Corey may bring a little bit of that out. But I talked to the person who presents it. They're going to present to the maps board, but it's a philosophy of how to make streets complete. And it's basically on us deciding what's priority. Normally it's pedestrian first, bikes and mobility second, transit third, cars fourth, or I forgot, did I say transit? Transit after bikes, then cars, then, I don't know what else, rocket ships, but whatever after that. So I think having a philosophy is going to be important on what we're trying to achieve in downtown. Do we want a walkable city, or like Carl said, a car-centric city, which it is already? And I think most people are kind of against that as a whole, that it's too many cars. But we don't even know for sure what everybody wants to get to. And I think that's going to be a nice presentation they're going to bring here. We're going to try to set up for next month. And then it'll go to council as well. And hopefully with, you all either proven that it's a good way to look at downtown Manitou or Manitou as a whole in the future and how we reach those milestones, of getting bikes out there more and making it more safer to walk and et cetera. So, but anyway, I'm kind of rambling on. Yes, Bill,
Can I jump in?
we could add mobility.
Can I jump
Thank
in?
you.
It's Bob.
Yes, Bob?
I don't know if I'm in line because I'm on my phone now and I don't know if
Well,
anybody has.
yeah, Rolf is in line.
Okay,
too.
go ahead. Then let him go first. Sorry.
No, I forgot to lower my hand.
Okay, Bob, you're on.
Okay, so I do we want more buses closer to downtown Manitou? I mean, I guess that's one thought. And secondly, I think we would get better data by just ending everything, keeping the 36 the way it is, and getting anecdotal as well as not just anecdotal. So don't somebody jump on me for that, but targeted information gathering, because a survey is so wishy-washy. You got to look at the way the question's framed. I mean, I'm looking around my neighborhood right now because I moved outside. Most of my friends would throw it in the trash. I mean, I don't like surveys. 20,000 I don't like. Let's end it and let's see what the reaction is and move forward from there. Because again, there's no way you can financially justify this, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Okay, is there a motion? Well, I can't make motions, but I suggest that we need to provide some guidance to City Council. Carl.
Bill, I'll move that we adopt Roy's proposal to move ahead with the 36 shuttle survey.
And would that include additional modes of transportation as well?
Sure, it can include additional modes of transportation as well, as long as it doesn't increase the cost of the survey.
Right. Okay. Is there a second?
Question. I have a question on that.
Well, let's get a second and then we'll go back.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Yep. Excuse me.
Well, if no one seconds, I will second that. Okay, Bob, you're on.
First of all, I'll be voting no, but you might have I think a better chance of winning that if you put a minimum dollar amount to be spent on it. Like, I'd be more comfortable with 10,000. That seems like a good compromise, not 20.
Okay. Thank you, Bob. Okay, any other comments? We do have a motion on the floor. Comments? Anybody?
Wait a minute. So I don't get a chance to have that debated. Is there value? And I mean, what if it comes back? Roy didn't know. What if it comes back at 40,000 or 30,000 or 25? Would that change any of your perspectives?
Bob,
Well,
procedurally, you could propose a friendly amendment to Carl's motion if you wanted, and Carl could decide whether it was acceptable or not. That would be the procedural way to handle your point.
All right. Thanks, Corey. I'll retract my statement. I apologize for dragging this on.
Okay, we do have a motion on the floor. Any further comments? Luke?
No comment. I was going to second the motion to move forward with the transportation study of Route 36 with additional transportation methods with as minimum costs as possible that Roy can get.
Remember, this is just a survey. This is just our opinion about the survey, not a study.
It is.
This is our opinion. This is our opinion on the city spending 20 minimum, it sounds like. Let me add that, Corey. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, the price isn't set. Roy thinks it might be about 20,000. We don't have a cost for it yet.
Right.
So how can you approve something, guys, without having a hard cost? That's what scares me.
We put a limit on the cost. Roy has suggested 20 grand, and I would suggest that we include 20 grand in the motion. Does the motion maker agree?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Second, Luke, you supplant my second. Would you agree with that?
I do.
Okay, we do have a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion, please say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed,
Nay.
1 nay, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 yays. So the motion passes 5-1. Roy, I think that gives you ability to go back to city council and see what you can do.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, let's move on
Thanks,
to the
everyone.
next.
I think that was a good discussion, so thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Agreed.
All. Okay, on new business, Our Lady of Perpetual Health Church parking request. Kevin, you want to talk a little bit about this?
Yes, I was approached by Ann Campbell of Our Lady of Perpetual Health on a parking request specifically for Church Street for Sunday services. Ann was unable to join us this evening. She had a prior commitment, but we do have Jerry Murphy with us, and Jerry will be able to elaborate on the request a little bit more per Ann and I's discussion earlier this week.
Jerry, are you on? Can you hear us? Can you unmute? Jerry? Somebody want to give him a call?
It says,
Oh,
Or
we had you for a
you're
second,
on.
Jerry.
Jerry, are you there? You got a phone number for Jerry? Kevin,
Yeah,
call him.
okay. Yeah, you're muted from us.
video.
There you go. We got you.
You got me?
We got
Okay.
you.
All right. It's working.
Okay, Jerry.
Okay. Yeah. So I know Ann real well. So, and I'm a long-term parishioner at Our Lady Perpetual Help as well. But
Okay,
one
can
thing
you
you guys,
talk? Go
one
ahead.
thing you
Go
got to
ahead.
know is that the church is not a democracy. You know, the clergy runs it, and we have to just go along with it. That's kind of the way that works. Okay.
Well, tell us about the need for parking on Sunday morning on Church Street.
Yeah, in fact,
Tell us about that.
Church Street is this, if I'm looking at the facility from Ruxton, it's the left side of the church, right? Isn't that Church Street?
Yeah, that's Church Street is directly across the street from 215 Ruxton.
Okay.
It's on the
well,
north,
What's on the north side? Okay, well, we park there now.
right?
Yeah, and so we've had really good support from the city in that they gave us the resident passes, so we can put those in the windshields. We can park on Ruxton, we can park on Church Street. So that works out really well. They also stop the shuttle bus in front of the church. If you ring the bell, it'll stop. So we got shuttle service. The problem with shuttle service is that it's awful difficult to park downtown to catch the shuttle. It's the 32, which is the incline shuttle. Is that right? Yeah. So anyways, so it's difficult to park down there. So if it was possible to use our Ruxton Avenue parking pass to park in the Old Man's Trail parking lot and then ride the shuttle up, that would be pretty cool. So that'd be a step in the right direction.
Yes, it would. Well, I'm pretty familiar with your situation because I'm across the street at 205 Ruxton. So
Okay.
yeah. So, well, is it really an imposition on the church and the parishioners to ask them continue doing what they're doing now, or what do you want us to do?
Well, I think,
If you had your magic ball wall, what would you see in it?
oh, I would tear down the house next door and build a parking lot, but that's, but that's
Well, I
not
don't
gonna
think that's
happen.
gonna happen.
Not gonna happen, no. So, no, I think if we could get more use out of the 32 shuttle by being able to park in the lots downtown, that would be a big step forward.
Well, you've
Because
got
right
the
now-
option to park down there right now.
Yeah, but it costs what, $10 an hour or something? It's not free.
All right, you got any thoughts on that one?
All right, so I understand the idea is to, and what time is church service? I guess we're talking
Currently,
Sunday
it's a
only.
Sunday evening at 5 o'clock.
So 6 o'clock is free parking every day. And I don't know how busy it is right now. Kevin, at 5 o'clock, I know about 4 o'clock is when things start to die down downtown. And how many cars are you thinking, Jerry?
Probably, I'd say
Sorry,
you're probably looking at a dozen max. Because some people will, we also have facility to park up at the castle. They've worked with us on that, but that's difficult for our older people to get from the castle down to the church. That's not an easy hike. But some of the younger folks do that.
How many parishioners do you have, Jerry?
We have about 100 families registered.
Do they don't park on Ruxton at all then, right?
Yes, yeah.
They
If
do?
you find, so the parking passes we've gotten from you guys allows us to park on Ruxton if you can find a spot,
And are you saying Ruxton's full then and they can't
Well,
find
it
any spots?
comes and goes,
Okay, because we don't allow paid parking there anymore, and I don't know if we can increase the parking passes on Ruxton since we don't have paid parking. It might solve the problem by giving extra, but Kevin, you would have to answer that question on number of passes, and we have a lot of room on Ruxton since it's no more paid parking allowed there.
Right, and I want to say this year, without pulling up the system and running it, I believe it was 45 that were issued for the church this year on Ruxton.
Do you think extending that, by 15 or something is going to be a major crisis on Ruxton at 6 p.m. or 5 p.m. on a Sunday evening?
I don't. I really don't.
no, I don't think it'll have any effect at all on Ruxton because there's only a few empty spots as the day goes on. That's see, Carl, you live across the street from the church. Is that what I understand?
I do.
Oh,
Bill.
okay. Bill, you do? By
Yeah.
the way, you do.
Well, not directly across, but I'm familiar with the situation.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
I think
Mr.
Carl,
Chair,
Carl has some
you've got
questions.
some hands up here.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
let Jerry finish talking and then we'll get to questions.
Okay, so it would seem, so we've had really great cooperation with the city. The fact we have the shuttle stopping in front of the church now, that's a good deal. The being able to park on Ruxton during the mass times, that's really good. And now
You
the
park on Church
relationship
Street,
with
Jerry?
Yeah.
You do park on Church Street?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, and you
I
can
didn't
fit 5 or 6 cars there?
Yeah, about that, yeah.
Okay,
And it's a public street, so residents park there too. So we don't have the whole thing to ourselves. Right.
right.
There is one spot reserved for clergy. Everything
Okay.
else is kind of first come, first served.
Sure.
Now,
Okay,
Ann was talking about potentially parking on both sides of Ruxton. I stood out there Sunday and watched the traffic, and I don't think that's a good idea.
that's a terrible idea, quite frankly.
Narrow, yeah.
On the uphill side right now, Jerry, that is all no parking unless it's off-street parking
Yeah,
over the creek.
that's correct, yeah. So anyway,
Okay,
that's
Jerry.
our story. And
Okay, so what you're asking for, as I hear it, as interpreted by staff a little bit, is some additional parking passes on Ruxton. But what do you want for Church Street? Exclusive?
Mr. Chair, that,
parking
I don't
on-
think that's right. I don't think that's right. What he was asking for is whether he can use his passes at Old Man's Trail and parishioners can ride the bus to get to church. That was the request, or unless I
bingo,
misheard it.
that's it. Yeah,
Okay, I stand corrected. Thank you.
yeah, because we park on Church Street now. We've just assumed that the pass we've got works. And we have had no issues with it. It's been a couple, 3 years we've been doing that. So, yes. Roy, are
Okay.
you?
Well, I think I can solve this. If it's 5 o'clock on a Sunday evening using Hiawatha, if I'm getting this right, use Hiawatha to ride this shuttle, I think that's easy to accommodate those permits. I think that's not a problem at all. Kevin, do you agree?
100%. When I was leaving tonight, and we still have a pretty good amount of summer left. If I caught it correctly, there were 131 open spaces in Hiawatha at 5 o'clock this evening.
So I think we
that's-
could easily approve that. If the board's okay with it, we could easily approve those permits for Sunday evening at 5 and allow them to park there. Not a problem at all for the city. It's, at 6 o'clock, it's free. 1 hour won't make a difference.
Yeah, so we need to have
I do have a question.
yeah. Go.
Well, I don't want to jump in. I again, guys, sorry, I'm on a cell phone. I don't know who has their hands up before me. So,
Go ahead, Bob.
I would say this, look, if there's no issue with traffic, nothing's getting used, of course, yes, approve. However, and I full disclosure, so I'm on the board of directors for the Pikes Peak Marathon and Ascent. And I want to thank Roy and Kevin for being so amenable to all these crazy requests. I really feel like the city needs to have a policy, and I was advised that I can put this on future agendas. I have no idea if this is the right time, but because of what we're talking about, I couldn't help but talk about it. It just, listening to the conversation between Roy and Kevin and others, making decisions like this just sort of one off without having kind of an umbrella, and forgive me if there is an umbrella, isn't good business. And so I would, I guess what I would say is, Jerry, thank you for being here. What a beautiful church. And I would support this if everything is being said is accurate. I'm sure it is, that it's not an impact on our traffic flow at all. I would just want to make sure, or at some point allow us as a group to discuss kind of special event policy, special request policy, and things of that nature. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Okay, Carl.
So I had kind of one thought, one question. And I'll start with, hey, the request is very reasonable, and getting people to ride the shuttle, I think, is a great idea. The first kind of thought that came to my mind was, I don't know how many parishioners are citizens in Manitou Springs, but with the new progressive parking rates, right, we offer 50 free credits. And so, our parishioners signing up for that benefit or that service, and could they use it, right, for that last hour at Hiawatha Gardens or wherever before the parking is free. And then the last point I wanted to make is, I kind of maybe echo Bob's concern, being on the Hiawatha Gardens task force. The plan is to kind of convert that into a community center, right, event center. And I think the utilization of that Hiawatha Garden parking spaces will be changing over time, and off hours or evenings, the demand might be higher. And so, trying to balance that, and I'm not trying to pick winners here or anything. I'm just wanting to point out that there might be other uses that might, be competing for the same resource. So.
Thank you, Carl. Corey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I know Jeff's got his hand up too, and so I don't know if we should bump staff to the front of the line. Did you want to jump in ahead of me, Jeff?
I don't have to. I just had a quick question. Do we know what time the bus stops running on Sundays? Would any of the parishioners miss their bus back to Hiawatha if the church service lasts too long?
Last bus is at 8 p.m.-ish.
8 p.m.
Yeah,
Because that would be a long walk.
especially if you're in a walker. Yeah.
Okay, so you're good, Jeff. Okay. Jerry, I wanted to also say thank you for being here. I think as this board, we're really glad to have discussions with people, and so thank you for bringing this up. And also full disclosure for everyone, I can almost see the church from my house where I'm at on Pilot Knob, right behind the castle. So, you know, I've got a particular interest based on exactly where I live, but I'm going to try to make my comments general enough that they apply for all of Manitou. When I say, I think it's a high priority for us to try to get private vehicles off of Ruxton and not cruising. And I'm actually surprised, and I don't want this to be, Jerry, careful what you ask for. I'm surprised to hear that we're providing 45 on-street passes for parking for one location. So I actually would like to say, we would love to have you ride the bus and not have cars up here. And in fact, I'd rather that all of the passes be converted for to be used at Hiawatha Gardens and to use the bus rather than having private vehicles, especially driving up and down Ruxton looking for a place to park. That's like the antithesis of what we're trying to do on Ruxton, at least, you know, from what I hear on this board and from my opinion as someone who lives here. So the short answer for me is I'd be glad to grant that request. And as much as possible, I would encourage people to park at Hiawatha and use the bus rather than driving on Ruxton. Thank you.
So the 45 passes, I personally have 2 of them, you know, so I just think a lot of people do have multiple passes. They just keep them in the car. Yeah. So I would suspect.
Yeah, but that's not necessarily a good thing, Jerry. I don't think, is it? They have multiple passes?
Well, no, I don't have to, that means I get in the car to go to mass on Sunday. I don't have to go find the damn thing. It's in the car, you know. And if
Yeah.
somebody else.
Well, that may be
What
something that we
percentage
need to
of
look
your-
at.
And hold on, one at a time, please. Okay. Go ahead, Jerry.
Yeah, so I think we have, I would suspect that many people have multiple passes, you know, because the cars go in different places, yeah.
Well, Jerry, the thought that Corey brought up is an interesting one. Do you know how many of your parishioners would be able to ride the shuttle and go to church and get there on time? And we could maybe not provide additional traffic on Ruxton. And also the comment, for instance, the Pikes Peak Ascent and Marathon. Well, the marathon comes along. People are coming down the marathon, you know, at 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening.
Yeah.
And granted, that's one day a year, but it is an issue.
Well, we're closed. You know, we closed that.
It's also,
weekend.
Bill, as you know,
Yeah.
I think the oldest continual marathon in the United States and brings an unbelievable attention to Manitou.
Right.
You know, and as I was trying to say, we do not operate that weekend. It's, you know.
Oh, you don't?
No,
Okay.
we're closed because nobody can get up Ruxton unless you're wearing running shoes, right? So, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So I think if you look at the parking on Ruxton, I would say if there's less than 20 cars that can find a spot, yeah. So there's not many people that park there. So
would it make any sense for you and staff, Kevin and Roy, possibly to sit down and just talk about it and see to what extent the parishioners are going to be able to use the shuttle? And we can turn in some of those parking passes. Would that be possible?
Yeah, well, I think allowing the passes to be used in the Hiawatha parking lot is a good deal. It isn't going to add any passes to the game, I'm sure. But you know, the problem with that right now is if you're going to make 5 o'clock mass, you know, to be down at to catch a bus 4:15, 4:20, something like that, to make it
Yeah, I
up the
see
hill
what
in
your
time.
point is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
no, I
then
can
you-
understand that.
Then you're going to get an hour and a half or 2 hours of parking fee, which would then go to zero at 6 o'clock when mass is over, So that's why it's a good deal to let our passes be used there. And that'll take pressure off of Ruxton. It'll still leave us people to park at the castle. I think it'll be a win-win situation.
Okay. How do you feel about just giving it a try for a couple of months and see how it goes?
That'd be wonderful. Yeah.
Okay, Kevin, comment.
I would not have a problem allowing these in Hiawatha, especially the winter months. Like I was saying, we're starting to slow down. School's back in session. When I left tonight, it was either 131, 132 open spaces in Hiawatha from the sign. I was trying to pay attention to traffic and instead of looking at our beautiful sign. The summer, it might get a little tricky, the heat of the summer. So June, July, first part of August. It was packed all summer long as I was leaving work, even 6 o'clock some evenings. I would be definitely open to sitting down and looking what we could do to utilize the shuttle better for the church. And I do know that it was requested of kind of the same thing of the Metro Board. It's going to come up at their meeting, I believe, if Shimmy puts it on the agenda in September for use of the Wichita lot as well.
I'm sorry, I missed the last thing you said.
The request
said
was
the-
also the Wichita lot.
Oh, the Wichita lot. Okay,
Yeah. So the request has made it all the way to Metro as well, to the Metro
Okay.
District.
very good. Okay, do we have a plan? Everybody agree?
No, I have my hand up.
Okay, go. Who said that? Was
So
that Bob?
that was Bob. That was Bob. So
Okay, Bob, you're on.
again, once again, this feels like a really big issue that we're talking about here, that we're in support of an organization, nonprofit, call it what you may, that our citizens may or may not subscribe to the same philosophy. And it feels like we're breaking the church versus state type deal here. And again, I hate talking like this because God, I feel like a Trump person, and I'm the least person that's a Trump person. But guys, really, why are we being so concessionary? I don't think there's a policy in place that justifies this. Jerry, I so appreciate what you do, and forgive me, I don't want to sound disrespectful, but I'm thinking about the bigger picture here. As we are establishing precedent in terms of our recommendations. So this is a precedent for us if we approve this, in my opinion. And again, I just think the city needs to have a much more solid, unified policy in place, because there's a lot of murkiness. So again, last thing I'll say, I just think this is slippery slope, guys, and not sure where I'm going to go with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
I support this. I too agree that I certainly do not want to subsidize any religious organization. This is a different one. Historically, this church is very meaningful to Manitou. So, but it's not to help the church, it's to help out the city here. And I think it does. I think it does. Getting all the cars off of Ruxton, this is exactly what we want to do.
Money in Manitou?
No, but unfortunately, they are part of the congestion on Ruxton and Manitou Avenue. So this, I support this, and it's a one-off trial program. So I do support this.
Rolf, I respect that, but I just think there needs to be consistency as it relates to events or just, unique situations like this.
Okay, Luke.
Yeah, I think the church has been there for a lot longer than anybody else has. And the people in their church have been parking probably directly across the street for a lot longer than we have. And the simple fact that they're coming to us with the idea and the concept of parking farther away from the church and riding the bus in is fantastic. So I think all of that's really good. As far as, the process that Bob brought up and setting a precedence, I think that we are the process, right? The fact that it is here on a public forum with our discussion, I think that is the process. I think that all of our opinions is part of that discussion. And ultimately, it's up to all of us, and more so the staff, to then take our recommendations on each thing individually. Of course, we're going to look at individuals. I mean, Manitou is not a giant place. We have to look at things individually and take in different aspects of each request. And I think that we are that process. So I don't think the process is broken. And I think that that is us. And I'm happy to do this exact conversation with every single other special request that we get, because everything happens in Manitou is special, and it should have our board dedicated to each individual thing. There shouldn't be a cookie cutter plan for everything, right? It needs dedicated, thoughtful response by all of us. And I'll just end with the fact that they've been parking here longer than we've ever even decided to think about paying for parking. And I really love the fact that they're working with their neighbors at Miramont Castle to work with their issue, and working with us to get parking permits. And the very simple request of just letting those happen at Hiawatha is fantastic. And I motioned, or I don't know if I can motion, but I think it's great.
I can motion if you wish.
Yeah, I motion to approve the request of the church there to utilize all passes that they have in hand at Hiawatha Gardens.
One question, Kevin, is the schedule going to accommodate it so they're not really late for church? That's just a question.
That would be a tricky question. It would really depend on the time of year. Obviously, that the height of summer, we're going to have more incline users. So we probably have to get there a little earlier to be sure that you are able to get on a bus. They do fill up pretty quickly. Winter, this time of year, I would say very fair chance of making it on time, parking at 4:45.
Very good. Current.
So just want to ask a question, potential friendly amendment to Luke's motion. Are there any concerns about people potentially trying to use their passes at Hiawatha Gardens and during non-church periods, right? Do we need to say, after 4 o'clock or whatever, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock? I don't care about the time so much, but just so that they're not there, on Saturday, at noon.
So
if I could answer, we do have the permits labeled for days and times. So staff would be able to check those out. Realize it's not there. Check the license plate against the paid parking system outside of the times on Sundays.
Awesome. Thank you for the clarification.
Okay, is there a second to Luke's motion?
I would like an addendum to it.
I think
Normal process is you wait for a second and then propose a friendly amendment.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, guys.
So I'll go ahead and second that, and then Bob, please go ahead with your proposed amendment.
Okay. I don't have no idea how to phrase this, but again, I feel, and again, Roy, Kevin, thank you for all you've done, for the emails that have gone to you. But I'd like to see the city to have a policy. We have a lot of events. I have no idea what goes on during the coffin race. I have no idea what goes on during the art show coming up here shortly. What else? Mardi Gras, the marathon, the ascent. Now we're delving into religion, and we're again, I'm in 100% agreement with allowing this, because so I'm voting yes, but I would like some language in there that compels the city, to think broader than this. I mean, again, this has been an incredibly difficult conversation for me because I'm exposing myself, but I hope some of you see where I'm coming from, that this is precedential, and Jerry, great presentation. I support you 100%, but there's a broader issue here. It's the city and we're making decisions.
Bob,
So,
Yes.
so
Bob,
Go
you've
ahead,
got
Mr.
the option of making an amendment to the motion if you choose to do so. Propose an
I don't know the
amendment.
words, Bill. I don't know the words.
Bob, can I jump in and maybe
No,
suggest that
let's,
at this
let's-
point, you don't make
Corey.
a proposed amendment, but that we proceed with the motion that as it is, and then we'll get into some discussion about it. And I think during the discussion will be the right time for us to register a comment. But I'm with you. I think it would be difficult to wrap that into this motion. So that's
You
my
can-
suggestion, but
well, it's up
Well,
to
you're
him
welcome to do it
to
if you'd like.
decide whether or
I'd like
not
to
he
do what
wants to
Corey just
offer.
said. I understand what
Okay,
most
Bob.
of what he said.
Okay, well, then we vote on the motion.
Well,
Okay.
now
That's
it's time
right.
for discussion. We've got a motion and a second,
Right.
and now it's time for
But
discussion.
there's time, we've already discussed it, I believe, unless somebody else has something they want to say.
Well,
Yes.
I would.
Kevin, hold on, Corey.
We've got some staff comment.
Roy's hand, I think, popped up half a second faster than mine, so he's,
Well,
I'll
go
Kevin,
ahead,
if you want to
you're
go
on.
first, I'm okay with that.
I just wanted to point out to Bob that there is a city policy in place right now. It is and I can never remember what the acronym actually is, but the ERIC group, which myself and Roy are a part of, where we delve into these events, look over the parking plans, come up with all of that, the Ascent Marathon, coffin races, all the events that you have named off, do present to this board monthly. So this, I feel, is a little different situation because it is currently under the RPP guidelines as a religious service within an RPP that does have permits that fall under the purview of the MAP board.
Thank you. Okay, does anybody have any other comments before we vote?
I would like to. I'm not
Yes.
sure if anyone else got a hand up.
Go ahead.
No,
Go ahead.
Roy has
Sorry.
his hand up, Corey.
I
Hold
just, I
on.
just want to add on to Kevin. I basically was going to say the same thing, but I'll add on to the ERIC group, which is the events planning group, basically at the end of the day. But they have recently, council approved an event fee structure, which includes parking. And so we have prices. Those were the prices that are given to all the groups. Groups do try to negotiate different prices based on a little different tweaking of their events and ask for certain things. And we try to work with all groups. But we do have a pricing structure in place that was approved by council this
Couple weeks ago.
I believe.
Yeah, recently.
Yeah, this year.
No, right.
and-
A couple weeks ago, right?
Yeah, well, no.
Yeah. So
longer
this
than that.
year is misleading. It was a few weeks ago.
Well, okay, but we still had one approved. And we've been following that for any of the groups that are starting up, but we're also trying to be flexible to the old rules, and giving people a chance with the new changes. So, but we're following council's direction on that. Again, do they need more tweaking? Maybe, but we are doing that. And like Kevin said, the programs under the RPP for religious services, and we're trying to follow that and be as flexible as possible to make that happen. If we need to add more verbiage in there in the RPP manual or outside the manual for other areas, I mean, that's okay too. I do understand we want to have a policy that everyone can understand and follow. So that's all.
Thank you, Roy. Comments? Anybody have any last minute comments on the motion?
I would, if you don't mind, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Corey.
Yeah, I think, the discussion we're having right now is talking about the 45 permits that are out there now. And is our recommendation that those could be used in a different place? I think we wouldn't want to limit it to Hiawatha, because didn't Kevin say that on some cases it might be better in Wichita? So I think we would say, to be could be used to access the shuttles. I think it is a really big issue on Ruxton. I'm surprised to hear, and I didn't know that was the case. And I really want to acknowledge what Bob is saying in that, I think we really do need some policies around this. And if there are specific policies for religious events, that are different than other events like the marathon, which are also really important in our community. I think we need a broader discussion about that. So I'm learning some new things tonight, and I'm inviting a deeper conversation. But in the short term, if we can, you know, make this work, I really appreciate the church where it is. I have friends that attend there. Sometimes they park at my house and with my permission, and I'm glad to do that. And I'm glad they're part of our community. I really would like to support them utilizing our transit system and being able to use the passes that they have today in the public parking lots in downtown and use the bus. And it really does invite a broader discussion about how we handle requests like this. I think religious entities shouldn't be treated different than other entities, is my personal opinion, and that's worthy of more discussion at another time.
Thank you, Corey. Any other last minute comments? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor of the motion, please say yes and raise your hand.
Can you reread the motion?
Yes.
Okay, who's taking notes?
Yeah,
You wanna
let's
read-
get the motion right, guys. I mean, it sounds like we're hurrying into this.
I can restate it if that's helpful for
Thank
everybody.
you, Luke. Thank
Okay.
you.
I motion to approve the request of Our Lady of Perpetual Help Church to utilize the parking permits they have in hand for where they're stated, which is for Ruxton Avenue. In addition to that, the parking lots in Manitou Avenue, so their congregation and staff can utilize multimodal transportation, primarily Route 33 servicing the bus stop directly in front of their church.
And I confirm my second of that motion.
Okay, thank you. Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
Okay, the motion passes 1-2. Ralph, was your vote yes?
Yes. Aye.
Okay. Okay, the motion passes 5-1. Thank you. Okay, let's move on to the next item, and that's a staff report. Kevin, you got 5 minutes, guy.
Oh, I can make it happen, Bill.
So,
So just a quick
Can I-
overview.
let's see.
Our residential credit program, since the beginning of the program through the end of July, has accrued 512 license plates into that program. Another quick overview on the two different on-street zones. On Street 1, the more expensive area, the most utilized transaction was 2 hours with just under 13,000 transactions. And in the OS2, the cheaper area, it was the 3 hours with 550-ish transactions. Some quick monthly statistics. There were 1,238 citations issued, 26 RPP permits, 6 lot permits. Foot patrol hours went up because of the nice weather, 368 foot patrol hours, 210 citation appeals were completed, and mobile pay is still far outperforming Park Mobile ever did. 5,500 transactions, and the reservation system at Hiawatha is, I think, a success with the small pilot that we're doing. 225 total reservations were made in the month. Our year-to-date revenue is 1,393,000, and last year-to-date was 856,000. We're just shy of doubling the revenue, and our turnover is definitely up. It doesn't really look that way because people are able to find a spot as soon as they're coming into town and taking that empty spot. That's the end of my report. I'm open for questions.
And question really, and it goes to the issue of reporting by exception. Can we report on these reports by exception? What are the problems that you're encountering and what help do you need from this board?
Really, the progressive parking, I think, has been a success, both implementation wise, on the staff level. The rear angled parking was a little tricky for a lot of first time users. We were getting a lot of no's in and then questions about how to get out of the parking space. So we did increase the signage there. It's now double-sided on the utility poles. So it's not only catching the eastbound traffic, but the westbound traffic. And we're seeing that's helping a lot. I
Okay.
would say the most help I could get from the board would be during the board correspondence, or even just email to Roy or myself or both of us on things that you're seeing that staff might not be able to see. We always appreciate extra eyes. Jeff is very well aware of that. He reports things to us all the time, as do other departments. We love the help.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Next one.
Question?
Yes.
Question, Kevin?
Yes, sir.
Great report. Thank you. I'm curious what you just said, great enthusiasm. So what out of what you just said, like, is most like fires you up, and what is most surprising?
So you broke up on the first part. I did catch the most surprising. So I will say the most surprising is really kind of the underutilization of OS2, our cheaper zone on the 400 block. It seems more people are trying to dive into Hiawatha and that south side, I believe it would be called. That's what I would call it, of El Paso outside of that RPP. Roy and I really dove into this, and we didn't really see a whole lot of use in that 400 block. And then if you could repeat that first part, Bob, like I said, you broke
What are you
up.
most proud of out of all that? Proud. What makes you proud? Like something you feel like you guys have like made work.
I would say this progressive parking, we are seeing the turnover. We're not having the open spaces that unless you're really looking for it, you'll see it, because cars are able to find a place. So they're going into that really quick. I've witnessed it myself as somebody. Even today, I was out doing some maintenance on a kiosk in the 900 block. As soon as I left, there was a car waiting for me to go right in there. They were able to find that space.
Awesome. Kevin, thanks for all you do and your team.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Kevin. Roy, comment?
No, I just, everything that Kevin said, the rear diagonal parking to me has been really successful. Possible expansion, but right now CDOT's pushing back on that. So we're in that discussion on why. But it has magically given some more parking spots that weren't there in the past for little money. It has been very effective. And I would say, 90% are now parking in backwards, maybe even higher now, like they're supposed to. They're learning it. And people have said, well, it's easier than parallel parking. So they actually are getting used to it. And it's an easy way to expand our parking areas if we need to, until we get to, improve mobility, for example, and then that could change. We may not need as many, but there's just as easy to remove versus a parking lot, parking structure. So, so it's a good way to satisfy the short-term needs and then go from there. But yeah, I think Kevin's group's done a great job this summer, and we're excited about that on what they're doing. They did some training with another group. And so all in all, yeah, I've been very satisfied with the parking this summer and all the aspects, from progressive to the rear diagonal to the reservation system, which seems to be successful as well. So,
What can we do to help you out?
I think, one thing we probably all know is that we just have to give time to things, let them, if we put too many new things in play, we just don't know what we're going to affect in other areas. There's always consequences somewhere, sometimes good, right? But we don't know that either. So I'm slowing down the pace a little bit. We did a lot. This board has done a lot in the past year. And we just kind of have to see now data and going forward and implementing these things that have been approved by council. And then start looking at what we're going to do in the future, which I think everyone's on that track to do. So right now I'm feeling pretty good in parking and mobility. I think Kevin is. We feel very supported by this group, and also learn a lot as we go through these meetings and trying to understand the differences too, and why we think differently. And every meeting I learn something too, and I go back and rethink maybe some things. So I appreciate the honest opinions and everything. So thank you.
Thank you. Jeff,
Thanks, Roy.
last but not least.
Mr. Chair, you've got some more comments on this item. I see Carl's hand's up, mine's up, and so is Rolf's.
Okay, we'll get to that in a minute. Let's have Jeff's report. Go ahead, Jeff.
I think these comments are on Kevin's report, if I'm not mistaken. I know mine is.
We'll come back to that, Corey. Jeff.
All righty. First of all, some very interesting conversation tonight. I feel like I learned a lot myself, to be quite honest with you. From a public works standpoint, as well as transportation standpoint, from my staff, I just like to say that we have a very dynamic streets staff that are really doing some good things, as well as the stormwater staff, which happens to be the same shop. And I'll just read you a few things that we've been doing here lately that I think people see, but maybe don't know what a bigger impact it really has in the community. One would be we just completed paving up on Mesa, Michigan and Duncan roads. Big impact for those folks who live up there. So we made an improvement in our infrastructure that way. Just yesterday, I believe it was, let me see, today is Wednesday. Yes, just yesterday, we restriped all the parking stalls around Soda Springs. Looks beautiful over there. We corrected a handicap parking spot over there that Kevin and I looked at and said, yeah, we got to change that, as well as Roy. We also restriped behind some parking stalls behind City Hall by 7 Minute Springs. And we recently installed parking spots down at 7-Eleven store down on that east end down there and originally, Roy, correct me if I'm wrong, it was for the people who work in Manitou Springs. Originally was the thought, but it may change now to a different direction. Obviously, Kevin mentioned the rear diagonal parking. We've done a lot of work on that, and I think it's a huge success, personally. We just put in bumpers down there because we had a problem with when these big trucks get in there and they back up, that their large trailer hitches or their balls, the ball on the back of their trailer hitch sticks over the sidewalk, and people can't get down there in wheelchairs, and it's not ADA accessible. So we put bumpers in there to stop them from backing up so far. Then we identified that, I don't know, a few weeks ago, I think it was, when we went out there and seen that. And I'll go through this a little bit quicker. Our street sweeper, we have a contract street sweeper now that's doing a great job, making a big difference because that's all they do is sweep the streets. We still sweep some. We have a street sweeper, but they do it all the time. We're contracting them. And I think they're making a big difference, keeping the streets good. Traffic calming studies, we've had 3 so far. We'll have another one coming up, my understanding. Carl sits on the board. He can tell you about it. We try to do, it's averaging about once a month since we've started it. And so far they've been going well. Now, not everyone's pleased with the outcome, but you can't please everybody, so we try to do the right thing with the data that we have. Let's see. Traffic mirrors, another thing. We've been putting up a lot of traffic mirrors around the area, Washington, Mount Calm, Illinois, and those areas on those very sharp curves where you can't see people coming around. I'm not sure how effective they are, but studies show that, if they don't move, they're effective with possibly not cutting down on accidents. Crosswalks, we did a lot of crosswalks here lately, schools up to the elementary and the high school, painting some of those in the traditional high school colors, which I think is great. Shows pride in the school. We also installed a drain pan down El Monte there to help with the drainage in the wintertime. And when they water the field over there, it drains now down the drain pan versus down the road, hopefully. We also installed a very large drain box on Puma Path in the middle of the road to help with the drainage there. So that'll help the transportation corridor through there. We are set to pave Via Chula Vista, Uinta, here in a few weeks. And then after that, we're going to be paving Cannon Avenue in October, which has been a horrible, ugly mess out there with all the gas line installations. But it's going to have brand new, it's going to be milled, going to be paved, going to be repainted with parking spots. It's going to be beautiful. And then we're also going to put some parking up around the library, the old library. Down Duclos, some forward diagonal parking. And then along the library itself on Pawnee, some parallel parking. And then where that parking is right now in front between the school and the library, we're going to have a little section of parking right there. But we will be taking out 2 parking spots on the end because they block traffic. Or I'm sorry, they block your vision to see oncoming traffic. The 2 that are closest out on Pawnee right there. And that's pretty much it. I could sit here and give you a laundry list of stuff, but that's just a few things I wrote down. Is that we're being very proactive and trying to improve everything. It's a long list. The streets need a lot of work. The storm water drainage affects them, so we're working on that at the same time. It's a big job, but it's a good job to do because you know that you're improving everything that you got out there. So that's pretty much all I got. A little bit of questions. You have anything?
Any questions for Jeff? Jeff, thank you very much for all your work. And we're here anytime you need any help, so don't hesitate to ask.
Sorry,
So-
Mr. Chair, I'm confused. So when are we allowed to ask questions about Kevin's report?
We're going back to that, Corey. If you just be patient, please. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Jeff. And
You're welcome.
I don't know, Carl, did you have a question? And Corey, I don't know which one of you were first. And I see Rolf's hand up as well. Go ahead, Corey.
Carl was first.
Carl's first. Kurt.
So I actually have 3 questions. Don't want to draw this out, but every month I see the revenue numbers, and Kevin is going to laugh. And I always like, hey, what's our goal? And like I see citations are running double compared to last year and on street. And so just, kind of, I'd love to have some sort of understanding of the why behind that. Maybe that's just the data guy in me. I'm always curious. So that's one, if I may. And then the other 2, I'm curious, Jeff mentioned the new employee parking at the old 7-Eleven. Curious if we're going to get reporting on kind of utilization for that. Because I know there is demand for employee parking, and is it actually being utilized would be really revealing, I think, to the board. And then the last comment or question is, I noticed recently shuttle buses parking downtown and taking like 2 to 3 parking spaces, and just curious how that all is working. I don't know how, if they have special permits for that or what's going on, but just curious as a citizen driving by.
So I'm going to work backwards. The shuttle buses is a program that the chamber has set up. They bring in groups of tour groups, senior citizens. They use the buses. The requests come through our office. It's typically, I want to say it's like 2-hour max at the buses parked long enough. They meet at 7-minute spring. They're there for about 20-30 minutes, then they move downtown, they break for lunch, and then they're back on the bus and they head out. So that has happened every summer in the 5 years I've been here. It's like I said, through the chamber. Leslie will send me that stuff monthly. Currently, we've been monitoring the new downtown employee at the 7-Eleven, and that's what Roy was saying. It might end up being changed a little bit, or I believe it was Jeff, that it's not being used right now. And I was telling Roy, I think it's because the downtown employee permits came out a little later this year, and most of the businesses had already purchased lot permits. I think next year it's going to be a huge success, just because it'll be ready to go first thing in the year. So the changes to that might be, we'll leave it open to those permits, but we may add a text to pay option down there, kind of open it up to some of the further east end parkers down that way. As far as revenue goals, we really don't have the goals set. I know I've got a couple. The system defaults to a couple based off of our inventory and algorithms that T2 has put together. Citations issued, that's more of just making sure that the board knows that my staff is out there definitely doing their job. Same with the permits sold, and the appeals has been asked a lot. So I wanted to get that information out there that, they are being worked through, and the 210 that were completed, I can add to that, and I probably should, how many were submitted. We're trying to make sure all of this is handled within a 15-day time frame.
So just to follow up, if I may, Kevin, I mean, like the citation revenue year to date is more than double 2021 year to date. And so is that the people don't understand the new progressive parking, or what we have? Just curious what's driving that.
Our new citation collections. We have active collections for outstanding parking tickets. Once they hit 62 days old, they are moved to an active collection agency, and they're pretty much sent a letter from the collection agency, and a payment is made within days of those letters being received. This is all this company does, is they specialize in parking citations.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, yes, Roy.
I will just add, because I know Kevin's not going to toot his horn or the parking departments, but they are very active on the street daily. They're educating folks, but they're also, putting the penalties where they need to be to make sure people understand that they have to follow rules. And in the past, one of the things that was always brought up to the parking department, especially with SP Plus, when they were here, was that there really is no enforcement, and then people did what they want. And so now we're getting compliance and actually getting less complaints. I don't think we had maybe one or two this summer, and that's not typical. So I think they're doing an amazing job out there, but because they're out there doing their job, they also are catching folks that are breaking the rules, that don't seem to care. And well, now hopefully they will care. And that's our goal, that we educate. So that's part of the education process. So I just want to commend the parking and mobility staff for their efforts out there every day. So the hard job. So
Thank you, Roy. Any follow-up questions on this particular topic?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Corey
Corey.
here. So I guess I wanted to say first, I appreciate those reports, and both to Kevin and Jeff, I wanted to let you know, kind of following on I think it was Bob's questions. Bob's still here, but really, your interpretation of the highlights and maybe surprising or lowlights things is extremely valuable to me as a board member. So like, the numbers are numbers, but to have your, this is what we measured and this is what I thought about it on, without going into too much detail, is valuable to us. So just sort of a note, and thank you for that interpretation. There's two things that I would like to see in the staff report. One, I know I've mentioned before, is the bike share and that kind of mobility data. I know Pike Ride collects data, and I would like to see some reporting of that on a regular basis in the staff report. And I would encourage to get as much of that as possible with Pike Ride. And actually, tonight's discussion has made me think I'd like us to include transit and ridership reports, at least in the printed data that's sent out to us, because I think that's an important thing that we should have as a board. Roy, I see your hand up there.
well, just real quick, Corey, I do get reports from Mountain Metro, and I'll go ahead and make sure Kevin gets those reports to put in the future of the C36 and 33 ridership. That's a great idea. Same with Pike Ride. I agree.
Thank you.
Good data.
And the second thing I wanted to bring up is, we got that parking book, and we talked about the progressive parking, and really, like, one of the really important keys to the success of that program is that we can show residents why it's working, and we can show that we're investing in that. And so I'd be really interested to have, that second part of it. Like, this is what our revenues are, and here's how we're planning to reinvest in a way that we feel will build support for the program. So yeah, some thought about that. And it kind of harkens back to my previous comment that we're kind of being asked to make recommendations about dollar numbers, but we're not really accountable for a budget. I think we did move to have a parking enterprise. And so in some way, having, choices, and like, it would be great for us to be able to make a choice between A or B, and within the framework of limited resources. I feel like that's a way that we could be valuable. Otherwise, it gets a little sort of like existential about, hey, do you kind of like transit or do you kind of don't? So just to comment on that, and I know these things take time, but that was in the parking book, and I'd like to see the second half of that part of it in sometime in a future staff report. Overall, I'm very pleased, and thank you very much for providing those.
Rolf,
Yes, so the 7-Eleven parking lot, how much are the passes?
Those are the downtown employees, and those are the $100.
$100 a year?
Yes, and we did agree to prorate those. It's about $8 a month. I can't remember the exact change off the top of my head. I think it was $8.20 prorate a month is what
Okay.
it broke down to.
And they're allowed to park there and the other employee lots, or is that a separate?
So the way the downtown employee lots permits are working, we have half of Mansion's lot opened up on the weekends when city staff is not there. Hiawatha lot, 500, 400 Manitou Avenue, and now the 7-Eleven park.
Great. So I think it will work eventually. Is that Tim Haas property? Who owns that?
No, so that is the Sinclair gas station.
Oh, okay. And how long is our lease for that?
No, it's just till the end of September, or I can end it sooner. So it's a pilot. And at this point, I mean, I think it was asked about use. It's pretty much zero.
It's
But we're thinking about, I think we would get some use there, possibly from the Pancake House and areas they were trying to use it. So we may, for the last month, just open it up. And then from there, I may stop use until next spring, or even earlier if it looks like employees are buying the $100 permits, then it will become valuable, and it's right across the street from the shuttle. So it also supports the shuttle use of coming in, getting the shuttle, going into downtown and getting to work. So we're trying to get them outside the core. That's kind of the goal with this.
Did we get a good
Ray,
price from him, or
Roy, brilliant, in my opinion. Thank you.
did we
Yeah,
get a good price? Or
It's a great rate. It's $800 a month.
wow, that's excellent. So I hope we continue that. I don't want to lose that just by turning it on and off. So let's keep it even or not using it, and possibly opening it up to everyone else for the time being. And thank you.
You're welcome.
okay, further questions? Hearing none, let's move on. Board correspondence is the next item. Who wants to start?
Well, is this where Roy, I was not sure where to do. Okay, I see you nodding your
Yeah,
head.
this is
I
the
would like
place.
to add to the agenda for the next meeting, event policy. Again, you heard me earlier. I'm part of the Marathon and Ascent, which we all know, and some of you have run. Is a tremendous economic driver to the city. Again, the Pike Street Marathon, if you don't know, is now the longest continual marathon in the United States, and that's because Boston took 2020 off. So again, I just feel like there needs to be a little more transparency, and again, no disrespect to anybody, but I would like to include that in a future agenda.
Okay, thank you. So noted. Further comments?
Yes.
Rolf,
So I would like to talk about the noise ordinance. The noise from cars and motorcycles is overwhelming in Manitou, has been for a long time. We need to do something about it. It's a disgrace for the people who live here. So I know that we used to have even a noise patrol. Colorado Springs did the same thing too. So I'd like staff, not to direct them, but I would like to figure out what is our noise ordinance, if we could post signs, and that way our law enforcement could enforce it when needed be. Not that we're looking for it, but if we had visible signs for noise, it is horrible. And I want to keep bringing this up until we could get some signs up about it.
noise is a tough issue because it requires instrumentation to be maintained and developed if you're going to go to court. And some people, if you give someone a ticket, they're going to walk in and say, well, where's your causality and can you prove it? And so it's a tough issue, and Colorado Springs is trying to handle it. I can say that late at night, you see and hear motorcycles running up and down streets wide open. And
So that's
I've
why
heard it.
signage would help. I'm not even
Yes,
saying
it would.
enforcing it. Big
Yeah.
signs, the moment you cross the arch, the moment you come off the highway, we need those signs. We used to have those signs, and I think we need them back. It would help.
Do we have
Yeah,
a
but
noise
Rolf, I mean,
ordinance?
somebody who lives in Crystal Hills, I hear it on 24, but again, this is a difference about where you live. And I hear you, but I hear it on 24 up here in Crystal Hills, but I don't know how you go there.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so we do have a noise ordinance, and it's a certain decibel. And it's even hard when we're trying to deal with businesses when we get a noise complaint. By the time you get out there and measure, they're done or whatever. So it's very hard to enforce, number one. And I guess the only other thing, Rolf, is what are the signs supposed to say that will deter that? And then we also have to get over the pressure we have to take down signs and not put any more up, which is constant by council. So we run to that hard battle. But what should they say and how is that effective, I guess?
Stating that we have a noise ordinance in this town and it needs to be publicized. Plus, the police officers can pull over people for that reason, not necessarily ticket them, but to give warnings. And it is something if you're on Manitou Avenue, it's very loud. I'm not talking about
Yeah, but
regular.
Rolf,
I'm
there's
not
only
talking.
like
No,
30 of
Bob,
you that
Bob,
are on
Bob,
Manitou Avenue.
Bob, wait, Bob, wait.
There's a big
I'm
town
not
here.
talking, Bob. I'm not
Hey,
talking about.
hey, one at a time.
Listen,
Rolf,
I'm
you got
talking
the
about.
floor.
I'm talking about the motorcycles. I'm talking about cars out of control. That's what I'm talking about. We need to put the sign back up. We had it in the past. I know it was 30 years ago, before any of you guys even lived here. We used to have a sign. We used to even have a noise patrol car here. So it can be done. It needs to be done. I'm talking about the motorcycles. I'm not talking about the highway noise. I'm talking about the people revving up their cars. Having an extra sign would be helpful, saying we have a noise ordinance. You can be stopped if you are violating it. If the police think you are violating it.
You're
and that's it.
crossing the line between personal concern and city concern. All right, you live in a place, that's where you live, man. I mean, I don't know what to tell
You don't, guys, I'm serious. I'll go to council or do whatever. We used to have a noise patrol. We used to have a signage. I want that back on Manitou Avenue. It's simple as that. Simple as that. It needs to happen. I'm not talking about the highway noise. I'm talking about cars abusing the noise from their vehicles.
Yeah, you choose to live in a 150.
Bob, you're gone. Carl.
I just want to throw in that, my personal view serving on this board is I think I need to represent all Manitou citizens, no matter where they live. And, cars are, cities aren't noisy, cars are. So I get Rolf's concern.
Yeah. What's so tough about saying noise ordinance enforced and it's on both arches? Maybe we don't do it. Maybe we don't have the tools, but we let people know that this is disturbing our residents and our businesses. Roy.
Yeah, Rolf, what I recommend is that you go to council in a 3-minute public speaking time and you express your concerns. That's what it's for. It's not brought up a lot. I haven't heard that. So maybe it needs to be brought up to council so they maybe talk about it if they want to. You know, I'm not opposed to a sign at the entrance. We can always, it's easy enough to remove the signs if they're ineffective. I could always look at that. It's probably not a big deal if we have it at the entrances into town. A reminder, kind of like what we did on Ruxton, where we say resident area, keep the noise down. We did that on Ruxton. It seemed to help. So we
Yes,
could,
it did.
you know, do something right on the entrances. To me, that's low cost, easy to do. And at the entrance of town, it's not a sign pollution issue there, I don't believe anyway. Most of the signs are when you get into town. So it's something we can look at, but I would go to council and I would express your concerns on the noise levels and motorcycles.
Great, and I'll bring it back up in 2 months also, and I will, you know, I will be recommending a resolution from our board recommending something in the coming months, so.
Oh, that's very disturbing, Rolf, because again, this strikes me as political and personal. Again, we could put a sign up. You think that's going to do anything? The sign won't do anything. Again, this is, you are living in an area of this town now that is blowing up, and you have to accept that. And I guess I'm just not comfortable with it.
Well, I think everyone needs to operate the way they want to operate, and if Rolf wants to take it to council, great. I would support that living on Rexton. I know the problem, and I do know noise.
Let's make sure that
Go ahead, Bob. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Bob,
through a survey. Sorry, Bill.
go ahead. Do you have any comments? Further comments? Okay.
Hey, Bill, just one more thing I'll say is that, you know, people can, anyone of the group here can bring their ideas to the group, and then the group gets to vote on it. And so
Right.
that's why we discuss and debate. So this is the perfect place to bring that. If Rolf wants to bring that to the group can vote it down if they're uncomfortable with it, they don't like it. But that's why we do it. And so this is the perfect place to discuss these things. And so I think it's appropriate for Rolf to bring it here and for us to discuss it, and then for either the group to support it or not, for council to decide.
Thank you very much. One other point that I have to make is that the Wichita lot that we have partnered with the school district, we're allowing parking in the morning from about 7:30 to 8:30, so we can do, the parents can do a drop off at the Wichita lot. It's coordinated with the police, it's coordinated with the city, it's coordinated with the parking. It's the entire city is kind of on board here. We authorize that. It started now for the last week, and we've been participating with that. Metro's very happy and proud to be doing that.
Thank you.
Rolf, great comment. Thank you. And I would just add one more thing, Roy, to your comment. Again, I think this is the kind of a pivoting point for this board. We don't all live downtown, and so we all have different thoughts on how money should be spent. And so this has been perhaps the most productive night I've ever experienced on this team.
We're not done. Can I do my board correspondence?
Yes, go ahead, Corey. You're on.
I'll just make a quick comment about the noise ordinance thing. I think that's out of scope for our board. So I'm not sure how it relates to our mandate. So you know, I'm interested, and I agree everyone should bring something up, and I'm sympathetic to the issue, but I don't think it's an issue for our board. Anyway, that'll come up later. The comment I wanted to make was I'm actually like amazed that we've got such favorable financing to rent out the 7-Eleven lot. And I wonder if it's possible if we could immediately make that available in part of our general parking inventory. And you know, what are the steps it would take for staff to incorporate that into our the you know, the existing system? Seems like a fantastic deal. The businesses at $100 a year is unbelievably cheap. And if it's not being used, I'd love to immediately see that become an asset that could be used for additional parking. I see Roy's got his hand up. Maybe he knows why that can't happen. Thank you.
Well, no, we're actually moving that direction already, Corey. So I already gave direction to Kevin to change the signage, and we promote it as an additional parking area for visitors as well. And as long as we are using it and paying for it, for the month. The next month, we might as well see what we can use it for. But so it'll be permit / visitors, whoever else wants to park there. So we will do that and see how it goes.
Okay, and then thank you. And I really think that's great direction. And the last comment I'll make is just an observation that we do not have anyone from the chamber joining us this month. And, you know, maybe we need to continue our outreach to them. But if anyone was watching this video later, we'd love to have more chamber engagement with this board. Thank you.
We're also missing our city council representative tonight. And
That's true. Yep.
so, and we need to have these people come because when we change race, we want to be able to explain to Leslie and the chamber why we're doing something. And I think it's important to maintain this level of communication, and maybe
Yeah.
I need to make some phone calls. Roy.
Yeah, Corey.
Yeah,
Bob
I'll go
Lord.
ahead and
Cor-
I'll go ahead
Oh,
and
go
work
ahead.
on that. I'll talk to Denise for city council side, and then I'll reach out to Leslie and tell her. And Bill, if you reach out to Leslie too, that might be
I will
both
do
of us
that.
calling her. Maybe she gets someone here, because I think it is important, like you just said.
Yeah.
Corey, can you guys hear me? I'm sorry, it's Bob.
Yes, Bob.
Corey, I couldn't agree with you more. You and I have been on the same page tonight, which is interesting. But no, I'm
What do you
right
mean
on, man.
interesting? Why are you so surprised about that, Bob?
Yes, mostly you and I butt heads, man. But
We're
anyway,
here with open minds and open hearts, and
we're
here
on
to
the
find
same
ways to make
page
Manitou
tonight. I
better.
mean,
Okay.
I was so disappointed in that meeting that so many of you attended and just performed so well with city council about how uninformed they were. It was embarrassing. And I know, and I forgot the woman's name. She's great. She's Rachel, is it? She's great. But golly, I mean, is that not just an or a illustration of kind of I hate to say it, but the dysfunction of our community, that the board, or I mean, excuse me, the city was so uninformed during that meeting. And God dang, Roy, you crushed it, and Bill, and those of you that were there. And so whatever, I don't know where I'm going with this, but Corey, I agree with you. I think they should be required to be on these calls, because we all know that parking and mobility is the #1 issue in our town. And yet nobody comes. And so maybe I'm getting political here, which is scary. But anyway, Corey, agree with you. Thank you all. What a great night.
Well, that sort of brings us back to the question that I posed earlier, which was, do we go back to live sessions?
Yes, please.
That's a question. Maybe we send out a little poll and ask
No
each one
thanks.
of you.
Just do it.
Just do it. I think we've stated the intention. We'd like to do that many times. If there's an ability to, I mean, I think hybrid has got to be the answer, because it's extremely convenient if people can't join, but we need to get back to being able to meet in person if it's possible.
I totally agree with that, Corey, and I think that it's needed. And I think we would get more people coming to our meetings. It's tough for some people to get on Zoom, surprisingly enough. So, Roy, could you run that by whoever?
Well, it's really up to the board here to decide, and then we just Kevin and I need
Okay.
time to set things up. And hybrids are not as easy as everyone thinks they are, so that's a different animal on how we can get that workable, because we still find problems with council on hybrids. If I had a choice, I'd get rid of hybrids, but that's just me. They're just not great. But we could do it. We're just gonna have to be able to set it up, talk to the clerk's office. So Kevin, let's talk to the clerk's office starting tomorrow, see what's possible. And I'll talk to Denise and just inform her we're going back to in-person meetings.
No, I don't think we have. Does anybody oppose that? Let me ask it that way. Yes, go ahead, Carl.
We don't have Joy here, so I know that
We don't.
she has special circumstances that, and she's not here tonight, but, she has attended multiple meetings recently from, New York or where, remote locations, right? And so you know, I don't know if we should make a decision
mean-
without full board.
Well, that tells me, and each one of us can be out of town, but if we can participate in hybrid, Roy, are the problems insurmountable that you're encountering in city
No.
council?
No, I just got to talk to the clerk's office, find out where we're at with hybrid setup. We'll
Okay,
have to make sure that Kevin and his crew are trained because he'll end up setting that up, and we'll have to see if we have to utilize the tech that we have hired for it, or if are we able at this time to do it ourselves. I believe the tech has to be brought in, that cost additional for the extra night. Again, all doable. Let me just do some research tomorrow.
yeah, why don't you do that and report
And
to
I'll
us
reach out
next?
to you and
Yeah.
go from there. And if you want to do a poll, we can do that as well and find out and see if everyone's interested. And we can try to get Joy in on the hybrid call as we do, right? So
Right,
it's things are
exactly.
possible. It just may not be a perfect system right now.
Right. Well, we gotta give it a try to learn what we can learn, and if it fails, it fails. Plain and simple.
All right,
Okay,
well, I'll be in touch with you then as soon as we get some
okay.
info.
Anybody else have anything for board correspondence?
I
Hearing
just want to make
nothing,
sure that is the next meeting will have special event, blah, blah, blah on it.
yes. Kevin, taking notes?
I sure am, and if you're finished with the board correspondence, I just wanted to point out on future agenda items, I have been asked by our planning director to get on next month's agenda for a draft zoning code update. And that's all the code rewrite that's going on. Our planning director, Hannah Van Wigman. I hope I didn't butcher her name too bad.
Good job, Kevin. Good job.
I hope she doesn't watch this because I'm pretty sure I butchered her name. She will be here to present the parking side of the zoning code updates.
Is that
Can I
available?
ask a question about that?
Hold on, Corey. We would like to get that a couple of weeks before the meeting, so we have a chance to look at it and go through it. We can't do this last minute stuff because we don't know what we're talking about.
I will ask Hannah if something's available. I know she's going to request the consultant to join that meeting as well. She is requesting an hour and she's planning on very in-depth conversation with this group.
Okay, well, we need the copies of the code so we can run through it, the draft code.
I will see if I can get that tomorrow and get it out to the board.
That would be
if and
great.
when she has it.
This is a big deal, everybody.
Yeah,
Uh,
if I may, Mr. Chair, this is something that we've asked for several months. It's been in the
I
works for months
know.
and we've been asking about it. And I do note
Right.
that it was presented, Hannah did present it this week already at the OSAC, the OSAC part of it. So at least on some level that, that planning code is being rolled out to some of the committees. And I really want to make sure that we've got that information in time for us to make meaningful recommendations and contributions. So Kevin, if you can front burner that and make it known that it's a priority for us, because we really would like to have input on that, I'd appreciate it also. Thank you.
Yeah, and we're talking about the whole code, not just the section restricted to transportation and parking and mobility. We need to see the big picture, I think,
I will
because the big
verify.
picture does affect what we do.
I understand completely. I will verify that. I believe Hannah was trying to kind of keep it down to the parking transportation side of it, but I'll let her know the board's desire for everything.
Is everybody okay with that? Hearing none, yes.
Yes. Good.
Okay,
Bill,
yes,
I would like to suggest, I feel bad for Jeff.
I'm sorry, say again, Bob?
His calls all night. I mean, could we move him up? Could we move Jeff up earlier in the agenda? Because I feel bad that he has to stay on this whole call.
Yeah, well, that's what I was trying to do, quite frankly, and wasn't successful. But yes, I would agree. And
So well, how do we
That's
fix
where-
that? Because I'm voting for
We
you.
fix it, we fix it by changing it. And Jeff, would you appreciate that?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay,
Of course he
let's
would.
do
Guy
it
does a
then.
great
Let's-
job and we make him sit on this call. I mean, that's not good from a retention standpoint.
No, and he's
I
got,
find it very interesting.
he's got his plate full already. He
You think
doesn't
we're
need to
funny, don't
listen
you,
to all
Jeff?
us.
No, not funny, just interesting.
Okay. Well, it's up to you, Jeff. You know, if you want to stay where you are on the agenda, it's your call. If you'd like to move up, we can make it happen.
I leave it totally up to the board. I get paid the same either way.
No, the guy works his ass off, guys. Can we fix his life?
Yeah, let's try it. Good thought, Bob. Okay. Anybody have anything else they'd like to offer before we close this meeting? Okay, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Night, everybody. Thank you.
Need a
Second.
second?
I'll
Second?
sec-
Okay. All in
Roy,
favor,
Roy,
say aye.
Kevin,
Aye.
Roy, Kevin, we're
Aye.
lucky to have you.
Thanks,
Thanks,
everybody.
Bob.
Appreciate you all.
Okay,
everybody.
thank you, everybody.
Night.
Have a good one. Take
You too.
care. Bye.